I'm exploring the intricate world of quilled paper art, from the tiniest details to epic projects. So this whole thing is just paper.
Yep.
With no pencils, no markers, and no paints, I'm uncovering a world of new creative possibilities that all start with a single piece of paper. So basically, this is like diamond painting, but you're making every diamond. So how long would it take you to make something like this? This is going to take all my patience and challenge my attention to detail like never before. I'm shaking. This is not a good time to shake.
I have faith in you.
Thank you.
I really do.
This whole thing started when I discovered this small box among my mum's art supplies. Much like me, my mum was a multi-passionate creative who loved to try all kinds of art supplies. So I don't know if she ever even had the chance to try this. And some of these supplies are getting a bit old. But discovering this set sent me down the rabbit hole of finding some amazing artists on Instagram who have created some of the most beautiful and captivating pieces that I can't help but stop to look more closely at. And all of them are made with simple strips of paper. The first step to all of these is learning to make a spiral shape using a slotted quilling tool. And once you've learned a basic circle, you can bend it and change it to make a huge range of different shapes. Doesn't quite look like the pros yet, but it was my first kill, so. I wanted to learn from some other quilling artists, including Kath, who makes beautiful bespoke quilled wall art for weddings, gifts, and decor, and also runs quilling workshops in her Melbourne studio. Yes. So this is one of the first ones that I saw on your Instagram that grabbed my attention because, for one, it's so colourful and I love all the colour. And for me, I think the thing that I love about the quilling in general is that the closer you look, there's just more and more and more to find. So is this one that you have a pattern, or are you just kind of freehanding it?
That's freehand.
Making it up as you go.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Should I actually have a go? Whoop. Nope. Nope. Oh no, this is like when you're a clown pulling a handkerchief out of a bag and it just keeps going. I guess I take this. Is this gonna be like just threading a needle over and over and over again? Keep dropping it. It's not gonna help me get very far. Is that how the magic happens? Maybe I should have watched more videos. I found a great starting point and some more inspiration in this book by Renae, and I've decided to try working on this cute butterfly design as a project to warm up my creative muscles. I photocopied a template from the back and I'm ready to really get into this. I know my first few curls were a bit all over the place, but actually the overall learning curve for this was pretty small. And it hasn't taken me long to find my flow and get the hang of the different ways that I can work with this paper, even with just a few tools. Or maybe I've spoken too soon. Many of these projects start with an outline, which you then fill with shapes. And the outline was the hardest part. Getting the paper to curve at just the right place and then stay there was a challenge. Don't tell me this is blocked already. I've got a few more hurdles to jump before I can even think about making paper art as amazing as some of these artists, like Justine, who is one of the few commercial paper quilling artists in Australia and has created some amazing pieces of art using only strips of paper. I love all the different heights. So how long would it take you to make something like this?
It'd probably take me 10-15 minutes to make the flower, and then I put the glue on, and then it has to set so that all the coils don't spring out. Otherwise you get left with kind of a weird shape. You don't get that nice tightness of the flower.
Back at my studio, I wanted to explore some of the other quilling tools that I found. I don't even know what this is for, but it had the word quilling on it. Ooh, that's a nice sound. Quilling tool, 2 quilling tools. That one doesn't have a slot in it. I wonder what that one's for. Oh, look how tiny that spout is on that glue. What does this do? I'm clearly not the one that should be demonstrating this product.
To be honest, I don't use this very often. You can use this to put it on any one of those there. You can put it in and mold it with your hand, and you get a little...
Okay, so I was on the right track. Curling coach. This I see a lot in the kits, and I was wondering if it's a bit of just a beginner thing. Like it just felt like a more amateur version of this.
It is a beginner one.
Okay, looks like a little person been stabbed in the heart. There are pins here, but it concerns me that there's some missing. Does that mean that they're loose in my box? Hazards. This unboxing just got a little bit more dangerous. This is what draws me to the arts that I choose to pursue. It starts as a curiosity. I started and initially it was like, oh no, this is gonna be harder than I thought. But then once I even found the rhythm and just stopped trying to focus on an end result straight away, all of a sudden now I'm finding myself going, oh, I wanna get back and do some more quilling, which is great.
It's addictive. I just find it so calming.
I have finished my first project. I have very quickly realized that this is gonna take a lot longer than I thought to create something a lot smaller than I thought. I used a bit too much glue, but overall, I'm really happy with how this has turned out, especially for my first try. It's time to start thinking about a bigger project I can work on. And I want it to be something where I can incorporate a range of different techniques so I can try all different approaches to quilling and find out what works best for me. I've decided to take on a page from Vibrant Wilds, something that has lots of flowers and leaves, but also some other things that I can try to color in, but with paper. I've printed a bigger copy, but I'm not really sure yet how I'm going to go with each different section and whether I'm wanting to glue them to the page or just use this as a reference as I go. This may be a bit ambitious for my first quilling project, but I've never been one to back down from a challenge. I figured one of the best ways to start was to just make a lot of circles. So this is probably the tool that I'm the most excited about because while I am not one to shy away from extensively tedious, long tasks, I do think that for this video, I want to be able to create a lot of quills a lot quicker than I can by hand. Woo! Oh, that was so quick. Put it in here, we let go. Perfect spiral. After a little more practice, I spent about 3 hours last night making the rest of these while watching TV. And after seeing some other artists using a corkboard as a backing for big pieces like this, I've decided this is the perfect approach for my coloring page. I want to, at the end of this video, want to play a lot, but then I want to create one big piece. And what I was thinking is taking one of my coloring pages, because they're all outlines, and quilling that. And I'm trying to decide like how much of it's going to be sort of like this, where it's, you know, filling in the gaps, how much of it's going to be layered 3D. And because there are some flowers in it, I'm leaning towards the layered because I feel like I actually feel like that will be easier than trying to cut and stop when things overlap in the picture. This is a little bit like what I was intending to do for my big project. I recognize your system from what was in my head, but I also have no idea what to do next. First of all, are you gluing this to this picture?
Correct. Tweezers are definitely your best friends. You pick up your paper, dip it in the glue, then dip off excess and then just pop it onto the paste and then pin it into position.
What I was thinking based on what I've seen someone do is actually trying to somewhat assemble it on corkboard. So put down my colouring page. I found someone used like a sticky Glad wrap that they put down and they were doing the work straight in the Glad wrap, but then they were gluing the paper to itself. So they were able to pick up the whole piece at the end. I guess the point of this technique is that the Glad wrap means that even if your glue gets on the board, it will peel off again. So you can build everything a bit more freely with the pins without working on the final backing right away. I'm feeling a bit nervous about this technique, so maybe I'll try this later and keep going with what I've already planned. If I can have mine look even vaguely like these, I'll be very excited.
I reckon you will. From the butterfly that you've done, I have faith in you.
Thank you.
I really do.
I have a bit of an idea of the colours I'd like to use in this page. Pink for the flamingo feels obvious, and I think some kind of teal or green goes well with pink, but also makes sense for the leaves. So after going through a few different ideas, I've found some colours in my paper collection and built a mini colour reference guide so that I can make this as colourful as possible, but still unified and working to a somewhat limited palette.
I bought some of these.
Look what I spotted.
They've been really good to get me out of my comfort zone.
I've been building all the little sections here to build my confidence before working on the bigger parts of this page. The biggest one being the flamingo. So I thought about filling this area with just some fun, different swirly shapes, or maybe even trying the beehive technique, which I have actually no idea how to do yet. But I've decided to settle on some curved circles that I think could be really good to represent feathers. But instead of just working with the circles, I've started with some outlines that I can fill in. And I've glued 2 strips of paper together to make it a little thicker to work with, which will hopefully hold the shape more easily and allow me to color these in with other shapes. It turns out the word quilling actually comes from a feather quill that they used to use as the tool to wrap the paper around, although probably not a flamingo feather. I wanted to use a darker color for the edges here and a lighter pink for the feathers themselves, but as I've started adding the spirals, it isn't quite as effective as I'd hoped. So I'm cutting smaller pieces of paper in a middle color as well and filling the gaps between the dark and the light. And actually this is creating a really cool gradient effect that works even better than what I was picturing. So whether this is a proper technique or not, I'm loving how it looks for these feathers. I still have all these pink circles that I've made, so I'd like to use them in the neck and in the head, and I'm trying to incorporate some of the beautiful swirls that I see in so many other quilling pieces and in some of the art that Kath has shown me. And I don't know if there's a specific technique to working out where to place each circle or each swirl, so I am just feeling my way through it. I figure there's not really a right or wrong approach here, and I'm loving that about this art. There are so many different approaches I can take, and it seems that every style looks interesting in its own way. Paper quilling goes back hundreds of years and is thought to have started out as a 15th century life hack. Jewelers would create intricate designs by twisting and curling metal or gold wire into lace-like patterns, not unlike some of the jewellery still made today. During the Renaissance, nuns and monks worked out that they could swap the expensive metal for upcycled paper from books with gilded edges and make fake filigree decorations that looked expensive from a distance. Kind of like a medieval art attack. A few hundred years later, it shifted from an affordable art hack to a highly regarded accomplishment and a status symbol among upper-class women. After all, only the wealthiest of women had the refinement, the artistic sensibility, and frankly, the free time required to create an intricately quilled piece. And now it's making a comeback, but in a far more creative way. Quilling now isn't just about filling spaces on furniture, it's about creating personalized art, ambitious paperography, and even 3D sculptures. It's handmade and relaxing to do with a small learning curve, but endless creative possibilities. I've used a thinner paper size to build each of these petals, and I'm planning to arrange them in layers using pins to hold them in place so I can glue them all together as a larger flower. There are a surprising number of different approaches you can take to gluing something like this. Both Justine and Kath use a pin to pick up the glue so that they can get into the finer details between pieces without using too much glue. Many of the beginner quilling kits I found online came with a small glue bottle that has a similar sized nozzle and allows you to add really tiny amounts of glue, and this is what I have decided to use. Although filling the bottle was a challenge on its own. How do normal people fill glue bottles? Yeah, oh no! I got overconfident. The only problem with this being so small is there is a really big chance this is gonna get clogged. The key with whatever you choose to use is to use far less glue than you'd expect. And even knowing this, I still always ended up with too much glue. What am I missing? What am I doing wrong? I'm just gluing these pieces together. But for some projects, it's easier to glue the pieces directly to the board or the background, and this is where a simple business card or a piece of thicker paper can help you to spread out a thinner layer of glue instead of using the big pile to help you apply this to individual pieces or big sections without adding too much glue. After a bit more practice, I have found a great way to work with my glue bottle without it constantly clogging. I've set up a small container with a wet sponge and have been storing the glue bottle upside down with the tip inside the sponge. It's kept it moist and hasn't dried out once, even when I accidentally left it open overnight. So this is definitely something worth trying if you're giving this a go. I am loving the effect of these layered petals. This has been one of the more enjoyable parts of making this so far. but I still want to try a variety of techniques, so I won't be using this same method for the rest of the flowers. Which brings me to some of the other fun quilling tools that I found online. I have 2 different crimping tools that both should do the same thing. Whoa, that one failed badly. What? The purple's going into the red. No, you're not supposed to do that. Oh, that didn't work out very well at all. Oh, that one works really well. Oh, that was way easier. Look at that. Now, if you thought that was fun. Fringing. Now, I found a fringing machine. This is supposed to go in there and then up there. That feels just weirdly complicated. That seems to have worked. No, it hasn't. No, that can't be right, because the whole point in this is that it was terrible. And I was so excited because I'd not seen anyone use one in all the research I did.
That's not a great one. This is probably your best bet.
So in summary, this just really sucks. So if you've got the right fringing tool, it will make perfect little cuts in a line. Perfect for making fun fringed edges that twist into a perfect little pom-pom or flower. So this is what that other machine was supposed to do. But some of the best quilling tools aren't designed for quilling at all.
You can use things like cake decorating tools. I'm just using one of these coils.
That's cool. Cake decorating tools, anything makeup related and art stuff, all cross work really well. I think I'm finally ready to try this sticky glad wrap technique that Quilling Quelly did in her video. I've been incredibly curious about this technique because this hopefully means I can use my template underneath and glue the pieces down instead of relying on gluing them together. And I can use as many pins as I need without ruining my final backing. I'll see how this works in a moment. But before I attach this to my board, I need to start thinking about the different layers I'm planning to make on here and which objects are going to sit beside the bird or on top of the bird or maybe even behind the bird. I've used a few different highlighters to help me work out my layers, and I think I'm going to end up with 3 main layers of objects. The flamingo and the outside frame will be part of the lowest layer, with these green sections sitting slightly higher and the purple sections sitting higher again. With my layers worked out, I can more confidently start building some of these different sections, and the glad wrap is allowing me to be a little more generous with my glue so everything settles in just the right place. I worked out that it's much easier to build my shapes completely in the templates or on the board and then attach the backing once the paper has dried in its shape. Before this, I was trying to build some of my flowers by gluing them immediately onto the final backing, and it was a struggle to get everything to stay in the right place without adding more pins and putting holes all through the background. There are so many different techniques, even in just how you choose to assemble a piece. And I think the next time I try this, I will personally be relying more on the glad wrap and on the pin board instead of some of the other methods that I've done here. Because the best thing about this glad wrap with the sticky on one side is that the final items peel right off the plastic without damaging the paper. And if you've given them time to dry properly, they are strong and easy to move around, ready to glue onto new backing or arrange for your final piece. I'm not going to pretend that I haven't spent hours upon hours at this point, but I have been enjoying this so much more than I expected. And even with my ambitious first project, I've been surprised at just how approachable this has been as a beginner. It hasn't been nearly as daunting as it looked, and I'm still very much enjoying every step, even with so much more to go. And if you're not up for the different complicated approaches I've taken for some of these flowers, you can often find pre-cut strips of paper like these that work with just the normal quilling tool to create cute little 3D flowers that you can use on cards or on other projects just to add some depth. I think what I've really enjoyed about this whole project is that it has plenty of opportunities to be creative, to think outside the box, use different tools, and even break the rules, but it also has lots of repetition, and that can be incredibly meditative. You could spend a whole day just making little matching circles or play around with different shapes while watching TV. It can be mindless or mindful, whatever you need in the moment. It reminds me so much of coloring books in that you can keep it simple or you can take it to any creative level you want.
I was actually diagnosed with ADHD. This is part of the reason actually why I got into quilling.
One thing that I get a lot of comments from people about, people saying there's no way I'd have the patience to do that. And a lot of people say,
It is
I could never do
designed-
that because of my ADHD. I think it's the opposite. I think that ADHD allows you to hyper-focus on something like this.
You have nailed it. Nailed it.
It's a superpower.
It is,
exactly.
it is.
You're in a calming thing, but it's that repetitive thing that you can just lose yourself in for hours and days.
And I do. I really do. I find it very beneficial for my mental health.
yeah.
It's essentially like colouring in, but with paper.
People often tell me that I must have incredible patience, and my response is the same always: if you have the passion, the patience will come. You can take it as far as your patience or your passion will allow.
As I'm assembling all my pieces, there's one more technique that I haven't had a chance yet to try. It's something I saw in Justine's work, in Kath's work, and in the pictures online, and it's the only technique that I haven't been able to work out on my own. On that one, the top petals of that, is that circles or are they like squiggles? That's that technique you're just showing us.
Beehive. Can't do this with a automatic tool.
It's a really cool effect.
It is, and depending on what look you're after, bunch it up really tight or sort of come out.
This feels like the perfect way to finish this flamingo and to finish my exploration of all the different approaches to quilling, although I'm sure there are even more that I haven't discovered yet. And I love this, but it doesn't quite feel finished. What I thought would be a quick 5 minutes extra has blown out to another day of making tiny circles, placing them, then accidentally damaging my background, then cutting this whole thing out of the backing and hoping I don't damage it, then reattaching it and adding a new border. And after all that, now it's finished. This whole process really surprised me. I knew that I would enjoy this, and I've been looking forward to trying this for a very long time. But I underestimated how fun this would be, and even more, how relaxing this would be. Even the fiddliest parts were oddly satisfying. And I don't think this will be the last time that I am making art with paper.